So Mercuriall just released a 5150 kind of amp model. Yeah, I had the same reaction as you did. Like, what, another one? Isn't the amp modeling market not already oversaturated with 5150s? But wait, this one's different. It's not just your typical generic 5150, it's specifically the stealth variant, which is a more modern version of the 5150. And it has such a cool character. So let's see here. For comparison's sake, let's go to Euphoria. That's like one of my go-to sounds. I'm using one of my own impulses. We can try out a couple of impulses in a little bit. Re-Access, that's also one of my go-to sounds. And then we have 6163, they call it. You know, this has this really nice cutting sound to it, especially the pick attack sounds so nicely spitty, for lack of a better word. It's kind of exactly what I've been looking for a long time. These other amp models from Mercuriall so far couldn't really do that. Euphoria has an amazing mid-range that sounds very barky. Re-Access has a very ballsy lower mid-range. I really like that. U530 sounds a little bit more balanced, a little bit more modern. Rectifier, I kind of feel like it's a dud. I personally don't like it a whole lot. But this 6163, this is amazing. This is without any boost pedal, and I'm also using Mick Thompson's signature blackouts. Yeah, I didn't buy it yet, but I will. But I'm waiting for some kind of deal around Cyber Monday or Black Friday or whatever. Let's see what happens. So this is only stealth version right now. They also implemented a classic version. Yeah, the difference is a little bit subtle, but the classic does feel a little bit more ballsy on the lower end, a little bit thicker, and the stealth version definitely a little bit more cutting on the upper range and a little bit more modern. Check out the other two channels. Yeah, it sounds amazing. We're gonna have to go into some in the mix demos also, but so far just playing through it, it feels so satisfying. Wow, I love it. I absolutely love it. Yeah, let's just go here into Studio One. First of all, let me give you my usual tone. Yeah, there's no EQ or post-processing on this guitar tone right now, just a little bit of stuff on the master channel that doesn't really do much to the guitar tone itself. Yeah, on here right now I'm using own hammer impulses, specifically the low tuned pack, two slightly different ones for left and right guitars, so it spreads out a little bit more. My ring light is constantly in the way of my screen right now. Great. So now let's go to the 6163. He already dialed in a couple of stuff. There is, I like this. There's quite a bit more edge to the sound while not losing a lot of the girth on the lower end. I personally really like a girthy lower mid-range, kind of in the vein of Slipknot. But I also really like Trivium. And this one can give you this Trivium sound really well. Now let's check out the second channel. You notice there's a little bit more going on at that top end. There's a little bit more of that brittle spikiness, which I personally really like. It gives the pick attack a little bit more definition and a little bit more, well, attack. Now let's check out channel 1. You notice has quite a little bit of less gain, and it's also really thick and spongy a little bit. So let's use our general overdrive. Yeah, so you see, you have kind of 3 different high gain characteristics. This amp model doesn't really do clean tones, I believe. Yeah, no chance. Yeah, let's check out a couple of different riffs here. This is another one. Okay, now let's check it in the mix. This is so good. This is doing exactly what I've been always looking for. Here's the thing. One of my absolute favorite bands, Trivium. One of my absolute favorite albums, Shogun. And the tones on there, just already back in the day when the album came out, I noticed there's something happening to the tones that I just could not replicate. With all the distortion on the tones, they still had a lot of note definition. In that low end, in the lower mid-range, you could very clearly discern individual low notes moving about when they're doing more technical riffs. And the upper range, the distortion happening there, it didn't sound like your static, white, noisy distortion kind of sound. It sounded just very, very defined. And I noticed that is something that amp modeling back in the day, like 15, 20 years ago, just couldn't get right. The distortion on the upper range always sounded like this static hiss that didn't have any relation to what your guitar was doing. It didn't sound like actual overtones being created. It sounded like white noise being laid on top that had no relation to, well, what the guitar was doing. I'm constantly repeating myself again. But here, finally, it's doing exactly that. I've tried a lot of amp modeling in my days, okay? A lot of plugins from a lot of different developers, from a lot of different brands. And that particular aspect is something that so far I couldn't really find in any other amp modeling. Maybe Neural DSP, like, let's face it, they still make amazing amp modeling. It's just the way they provide it for the customer, I absolutely do not like. But this one right here finally does exactly that. You hear a lot of note definition. You really hear the notes jumping around even on those low tunings, and the upper range doesn't have any static hiss, no static resonances happening. It just works. This is my kind of jamming and monitoring tone. And that the pick attack isn't quite the same. This one, you hear the squeakiness. That's the word I'm looking for, the squeaky pick attack. Ah, I love that. It sounds so aggressive. Yep. Love it, love it, love it, love it, love it, love it. So you see, in my opinion, this is not just another 5150 model. There's really more to it. It has more character. The pick attack is exactly what I always wanted. And it's like when the 5150 Stealth came out, I was so blown away at how nasty it sounds. And I was so bummed that, of course, I'm not gonna afford that. And there was also no amp model that could replicate this. Now this does it. And also that kind of note definition in the lower mid-range. Or, not really low, the general mid-range. The note definition is also something that I was always looking for but couldn't quite get. This one again does it. Sounds amazing. Let's check this out with some different impulse responses. For now, let's stick with Own Hammer. Let's go to, let's try Mesa Boogie, Vintage 30, mics, 57, standard, like, doesn't get more generic. Okay, let's try something else. Let's go with the orange. I really like the orange with the M25. Let's see here. And let's check out here Ola's impulse responses. The one. Let's see here. See, what else do I have in here? 3 Sigma. Oh boy, do they still exist? Haven't heard of them in a long time. One from Celestian. Yeah. Oh boy, I haven't looked through this one in a long time. God's Cap, that's a really good free pack. Yep, that sounds amazing. Let's check out Rosen Digital 4x12. You also notice the higher notes in that curve. These ones. They kind of come through in a very spitty, aggressive way. I absolutely love it. With other amp models, it doesn't quite do the same thing, but this one somehow does it just really well. At least in my opinion, that's what I'm noticing when I'm playing through this amp and also listening to it in general. With all of this, keep in mind, you right now are taking on a listener's perspective, which is completely different from the player's perspective. Playing through this amp gives you a much better idea of how it's behaving and what exactly it's doing. Because, well, the sound is a direct response to your action on the instrument, so you are much more sensitive to all kinds of nuances when you actually play through the plugin yourself, instead of only listening to it. Keep that in mind. Always try stuff out yourself. So that's it for this video. See you next time. Maybe next year. Yes, I am working on music. I have a new complete album done. But I am in the process again for looking for a vocalist. So if you can sing like really well and you'd like to do some stuff with me, hit me up.